Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today is another romance trope recommendation video. I asked you guys on my Instagram what tropes you wanted to see me give recommendations for, and one of the ones that was asked for the most is one of my favorites, and that is age gap. So all of these are going to be age gap romances. Some of them, the age gap is very big. Some of them, they're a little bit smaller. And I also have a mixture of like older man, younger woman, and then older woman, younger man. So we've got a variety here. The first book that I'm gonna be recommending is actually a book that I read very recently, and that is Praise by Sarah Kate. So this is a workplace, boss employee, age gap, ex-boyfriend's dad, dom sub romance. It's got all of the buzzwords, all of the tropes. Basically, this is about a woman who at the beginning of the book breaks up with her boyfriend, and they lived together, so they break the lease on their apartment, and she needs to get her security deposit back, but the security deposit was sent to her ex's dad. So she has to go to his house to pick it up. And his dad is like a billionaire businessman. He owns a sex club where people go to safely explore their kinks. And when she arrives, he does not know who she is, and he mistakes her for his new secretary. And he tells her to kneel and call him sir. And she's very confused at first, but like intrigued, so she does. She kneels, and that's when he realizes that she's not his new secretary. She's his son's girlfriend. That's kind of where the story goes from there. He realizes that she needs money, so he offers her a job as a real secretary, not his secretary. And so the rest of the book is like a boss employee type of relationship where they're very, very attracted to each other, but because she is his son's ex-girlfriend, there's so much like tension. They play into a dom sub kind of dynamic, and I loved this book. I had so much fun with it. You guys know how much I love that ex-boyfriend's dad trope, and this one just kind of threw in like a ton of other tropes into the blender, and like it was just a great time. So the next one is a whole series, and they're all age gaps, and that is Katie Roberts' A Touch of Taboo series. All of these are like kind of dad guardian vibes. We have Your Dad Will Do, which is her ex-boyfriend's dad. Then we have My Dad's Best Friend, self-explanatory. And then Seducing My Guardian, which is her parents died when she was a teenager, and so she has this guy who becomes her guardian, and he only sees her on her birthday. Like other than that, he's like, peace out. And so on her 25th birthday, she finally is like, I'm gonna seduce him. All these books were very fun. However, I will recommend, if you are gonna read the series, don't binge them. Space them out, because like they do get very repetitive. So I feel like these would be good to just read like every once in a while when you're looking for something short, spicy, and taboo. The next one is Violent Delights by Jessica Hawkins. This is a cartel crime romance about this girl who, when she was a little kid, she witnessed her mom dying. The guy who killed her mom was standing over the body and then used her as a shield so that he could escape the house, and left her locked in this like underground tunnel for hours in the dark and disappeared into the night, never to be seen again. Now she's all grown up and she's actually dating that man's younger brother. They're very serious, they're in love, but then all of a sudden he shows up again, and she hates him, obviously, but she's super attracted to him. And I loved those vibes of like, she genuinely hates this man, but he's hot. So it's a little bit confusing. And yeah, I loved this trilogy. I think it's a trilogy. There's 3 books. And this was just a lot of fun. I loved the chemistry. This is definitely something you're gonna wanna binge because it ends on like the most exciting part of the book, which kind of annoyed me, but it's such a great time. The next one is Twisted Games by Anna Huang. This is the second book in this Twisted series, but this is a princess bodyguard romance. It's by far my favorite bodyguard romance, but it's also a great royalty romance. So he has always had this code where he doesn't get emotionally attached to the people that he's protecting until he meets her. This book was so good. The throne scene. If you like the like forbidden, they're not allowed to be together, angsty, pining bodyguard princess, age gap, like it just has everything. It's so good. It's so good. I'm going to need them to make audiobooks for this series so that I can reread them and listen to them, but this one is it's just so good. So the next one is another royalty romance, and it's up there as my favorite royalty romance, and that is A Nordic King by Karina Halley. This is an old fave. I've been recommending it more recently because I just really want people to read it. It's so good. This is still my favorite Karina Halley book. I've read like, at this point I've read like 15 of her books, and she's very much like a hit or miss author for me. Either her books don't work for me or I absolutely love it, and this is still my favorite. I love this book so much. This is about a king, and he is a widow, and he has 2 young daughters, so he hires a nanny to look after his children. She's much younger than him. I believe he's like older. He's like in his 40s, and then she is in her, I want to say in her 20s. And this book is just so good. It gives everything that like a royalty romance should give, but it also has like the awesome like nanny trope to it. And I've always said that this kind of reminds me of that like old TV movie Au Pair. I don't know if anybody remembers that movie. I was obsessed with that movie when I was a kid, and this is probably the romance that I've read that reminds me the most of it. And King Axel is amazing. So those were all of the older man, younger woman. The next 5 that I have here are all older woman, younger man romances. The first one that I have here is probably my favorite out of these, and that is The Pool Boy by Nikki Sloan. So this is about a woman who recently got divorced. She's kind of starting over in life, and her best friend's son is her pool boy. And one day she's out at the pool tanning, topless. She doesn't know that he's gonna show up that day to clean the pool, and all of a sudden she hears like a gasp and looks over, and there's the pool boy. And from that, they have an attraction and a romance. I loved this book. There's also a big like music element to it because she is like a music producer or something. She works like as an executive in music, and the guy, he is like an amateur musician, and she loves his music so much that she gives him like the start of his career. So they're also kind of like working together in that aspect. I loved this book so much. 5 stars, instant fave. The next one is That Kind of Guy by Talia Hibbert. This is part of her Ravenswood series, and this is like a friends to lovers age gap where we have this woman who I think she's also been divorced, or she just has an ex, I can't remember, but she's in her 40s, and her best friend is this younger guy. They have a really great friendship, and she has to go to this event where her ex is gonna be. I think it might be like the first time that she's seeing him since they split, and so he offers to like pretend to be her date at the event. I loved this romance so much. The main character also has a chronic illness. I believe that she has POTS. I just really loved how this is like a really great friends to lovers romance where they're actually friends. They have a lot of respect for each other. They get along really well, but they're harboring like this little attraction for each other. And this was so good. I love this series so much. This series is such an underrated gem from Talia Hibbert. If you like her Brown Sister series and you have not read the Ravenswood series, I don't know what you're doing because the vibes are the same. I personally like this series better. So like, y'all need to get on this. The next one is a historical romance, and that is Waiting for a Scot Like You by Eva Leigh. So this is a woman who is in her 40s. Her husband recently died, and they never had like a big love kind of romance. They didn't have a great marriage. It wasn't like bad, it was just fine. So now that she is a widow, widows are granted like a lot of freedom in society, and so she wants to experience all the things that she missed out on in life and just like live life to the fullest. And what she wants to do with her newfound freedom is experience an orgy. So she's traveling to this party, this sex party, and her friends think it's gonna be like dangerous and weird, so they make her promise to take a bodyguard with her. And so she takes this younger man who's this like Scottish guy from the army, and they travel across the country to go to this orgy. And I loved this because it has my favorite trope where like they're on a long journey, and along the way they have to stop at like different little towns and stay at little inns, and there's only one bed, and they have to stay like in a carriage in close quarters. I love this. It's one of my favorite historical romances. It was so much fun. And then the last one that I have here is The King's Spinster Bride by Ruby Dixon. So this is one of her fantasy romances with like rival kingdoms and invasion, and at the start of the book, the king has to choose his next bride, and he decides that he's going to choose the rival kingdom's princess, who they've had like locked away in a tower since they overthrew the kingdom. And he wants to marry her because when he was a child, she saved his life. She's older than him, and he was a little boy, like kind of staying in her care almost, and someone tried to kill him and she protected him. And he's never forgotten that. He's never forgotten her. So now that it's time for him to choose a bride, he wants her. And through their like marriage customs, their marriage ceremony, they have to go through a series of trials that are almost like levels of consent, where like he has to prove that he is an adequate lover to his intended wife, and like that he can satisfy her, and that like she has to accept him. I loved this romance so much. It was so good. If you are a fan of Ruby Dixon's Ice Planet Barbarian series, this one was so good. Very different vibes, but still had that like really fun element that Ruby Dixon's books have. So those were all of my age gap romance recs. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!